What is going on, everyone? So I had said that once I got my gut bacteria or GI map back in, that I was going to do a couple of videos on it just to talk through everything. So here it is. This is my GI map. So we finally got this back. We finally got some information and some insight into kind of what's going on here. And while it's not great, it's also not as bad as it possibly could have been. So like a lot of these things, like the really bad ones that are up here, I don't have any issues with. So I don't have any issues with norovirus, adenovirus, E. coli, or any of these other issues, salmonella. So that's a win. This is still something I'm very new to. So this is all information that I'm just kind of learning as I go along. I've never had to do one of these for myself before. I've never had to do one for a client before. So this is all a learning process to me. So definitely some cool stuff that I'm now learning more about, and really curious to see how things change as we start to fix them. So the H. pylori here being high, it just means that it's a concentration approaching or increasing the reference range, and they're more likely to be significant and may warrant treatment. So like the fact that this came up on the test says that there's the presence of the H. pylori. And then these other things down here are virulence factors that could be attached to other viruses that could make this much worse. So luckily I am negative for all of those, so that is definitely a good thing there. And high levels of H. pylori can affect gastric acidity, potentially leading to hypochlorhydria and related digestive issues. So obviously this is something we're going to need to get rid of. H. pylori is something that's going to have to be taken care of with antibiotics. So I have started to try and get a prescription for those so that we can go ahead and knock that out quickly. I'm going to be using rifaximin and azithromycin, because if we look down here at the bottom, fluoroquinolone, I do not respond well to. So if we tried to use fluoroquinolone to get rid of that H. pylori, my body's just not going to respond to it the way we want. So obviously we want to make sure that we use something that's going to help improve, not just like take it for no reason. Antibiotics are not something that we want to be on for a long time. So if it's something that's not going to work for me, I don't want to use it. The next result we come to is Enterobacteria spp. It can be beneficial in moderate amounts, and it can contribute to gut health. But high levels, an overgrowth can be problematic, and it's seen in just dysbiosis or inflammatory conditions. And low levels, there's not usually an issue. So mine here is on the higher level, which is definitely an issue here. Akkermansia mucinophilia. Man, these are going to be fun. I actually have low levels of this, so this is on the lower end of the spectrum. High end, it can be beneficial, and it's associated with a healthy mucosal lining and metabolic health. But low levels could indicate a compromised mucosal barrier and has been associated with various metabolic disorders. So the fact that this one is low, and we look down here at the bottom at zonulin, and then the secretory IgA, there's definitely some inflammation in my gut, and zonulin is a marker for leaky gut. So the significance of it: high levels in the stool indicates intestinal permeability, where tight junctions are less effective at keeping unwanted substances out of the bloodstream. So if your gut lining is like this, where everything can't get through it, if it starts to spread apart, things can start to pass through that lining without being absorbed into the stomach, and then wreak a lot of havoc. So the fact that it's not elevated, it's not in the red, but it is higher than it probably could be, suggests that we could be dealing with a little bit of leaky gut issues here. So it's definitely something that we need to try and improve. So that was this one here, right? And then the other two here, bacterioroidetes and firmicutes, Mickey. Yeah, sure. So these are both just bacteria that can be in the stomach, and high levels could suggest dysbiosis or SIBO. So I don't really have a lot of the other markers that would say that I have a full-blown SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, but there is some indication that I do just have a dysbiosis in my stomach, which is something that we're working to improve here. These two levels being higher could indicate that there's an imbalance that favors the overgrowth in certain bacterias, and it might be associated with diet, medication, or other factors that promote these bacteria. So more than likely this is something diet related. So we might even want to end up looking at something like an allergy test to see if there's anything I'm eating that could be causing some issues and some things off with this as well. We've already touched on the Enterobacter, and then Streptococcus spp. High levels of the species Streptococcus pneumoniae and Streptococcus pyogenes could be diseases such as strep throat, pneumonia, and meningitis. But an overgrowth in the gut could potentially link to gut dysbiosis. So I've had a history of like strep throat and things like that, but talking with Dom, it doesn't seem like that would have anything to do with this, like past issues. But there is something to be said about like, yeah, this is leading towards Nick has a gut overgrowth. Everything else is really good. So like Candida is not an issue or anything like that. I don't have any fungi or yeast. I don't have any viruses. No parasites or anything, thank God, because I'm sure that would be a pain in the butt. But then there's just these other things that are indicating some inflammation and some overgrowths, right? So this secretory IgA that we were talking about is the primary antibody in the gut, which plays a role in mucosal immunity. So the lower level here suggests a possibly compromised mucosal immunity, which might lead to increased susceptibility to infections and impaired gut barrier function. So the zonulin, secretory IgA, and whichever one I was talking about earlier, the bacteria, these two here, these ones kind of indicate that there may be some issues with my gut lining as well. I've had issues with my stomach for a long time. I had issues with my stomach from a previous coach with just some of the things that he did with me as far as pushing food, protocols, that kind of thing. So I'm really curious as to like how this happened and what could have potentially led to it, and then why it may have been elevated for so long. So I'm really curious to start getting this thing rolling here. So I'm going to document some stuff as far as the things we're going to be doing to try and fix this, and give you a little bit more insight into what this looks like, because dealing with these types of gut overgrowths obviously makes it a lot more difficult for us to be able to bodybuild. Like the main thing that we have to be able to do is digest and assimilate food well. And if there's inflammation and gut dysbiosis, we're going to have a much harder time being able to digest and absorb that food, especially when I'm currently dealing with like excessive gut bloating and nausea. So those two things in combination are making it very difficult for me to be able to even eat, let alone eat the amounts that I need in order to make progress here. So not the worst results in the world, but it is something we're going to need to be able to deal with. So please check back in. I am going to be doing more videos, doing kind of like a day in the life to give you guys some insight into the supplements I'm going to be using, the antibiotics I'm going to be using, and then the food that we're going to be using in order to try and fix the issues that I'm facing here. So appreciate you guys checking in. I'm excited to show you this new thing that I'm dealing with, just because we hear people talk about gut problems fairly regularly, but very rarely do we actually have people go through them and explain kind of the process of what it looks like to fix these issues. So definitely excited to share this with you guys. Be sure to check in for more videos coming soon.